Well, good afternoon. How are you all today? Seems like it's been a while. I think it has been a while. Thanks to everybody. Excuse me, I'm sucking on a cough drop. Thanks to everybody who's been asking, hey, Steve, you okay? Where you been? All that. Well, as most of you know, we went on vacation, went up to Minnesota for a few days. And then I got sick as a dog. And man, I just wasn't up to it. I tried to shoot this one yesterday. I think I started it about 15 times. And I never restart a video. But man, I had the brain fog was still hanging on, and I just kept on messing up and couldn't do it. So I'm going to try to do it today. And this is in response. This is going to be about safety, security, preparing for when you're on the road, when you're away from home. I put something up on the Patreon channel while we were up in Minnesota, a question to our patrons about how they prepared for going on the road. And I'll say right now, I haven't read any of their responses, any of their comments. I glanced through it. I saw there was a lot of comments, and I saw the detail of some of the comments. So I'm sure that they're very good. After I get done with this, then I'll go read those. But I didn't want to read those because I didn't want to take a chance on stepping on somebody and or unknowingly saying something the same way somebody else did, and then I'm thinking, he stole that from me. Well, we don't have that kind of people. They wouldn't do that anyway. But I'm sure they have some excellent advice over there. And by the way, this is a good time for me to say that if you're not with us on the Patreon channel, you ought to be. We have some extremely sharp people over there who give advice in addition to what I put over there. And it's the easiest thing in the world to do is the links down below. Hit the link, come to the Patreon channel, cost you $1 a month, and you will learn a lot. You'll be glad you did. So anyway, I posed that question, and then one of our newer patrons, I noticed that she put in a question because I had mentioned I had done this kind of video sometime back, a couple of years ago. She said, I haven't seen it. Would you mind doing it again? I said, sure. So let me just talk a few minutes about what I think about how I prepare to go on the road. We take a lot of trips. I enjoy traveling. The family enjoys traveling. We don't fly, we drive because we like to see the country, right? And wherever I go with and in the back of my mind, the possibility that I'm going to have to walk home. So that's kind of where I start from. Now, I have a tendency not to cover a lot of the basics in a lot of my videos because I figure that everybody knows the basics, right? And, but I, do the things that you know to do. Make sure your vehicle's in good order. Check your fluids, check your tires. If your tires aren't in, that great a shape. I replaced 2 tires before we went up to Minnesota. Had I not been going on the road, they would have lasted longer, I'm sure. And if I'd stayed in the city, I wouldn't have replaced them yet. But I don't want to be on a long trip with tires that I said, wished I'd have replaced those. So I had them replaced. And then the place that we have do our tires, they sell used tires. So they'll be able to take those tires that they took off my car and sell them. So maybe it'll help somebody else out. Anyway, make sure your tires are good, properly inflated. All your fluids are good. If your car's acting up, take care of it, When you're on the road, here's just another basic thing. When you're on the road, keep your gas level up high. I don't like to get mine down below 3/4 of a tank. I know that when you're traveling over road, it's going to get down closer to a half. And when we were out west, it got below that, but I don't like it to get below that. Make frequent stops. Keep that topped off because you never know what happens. If you've read my books, what if the big one happens? What if the grid goes down? What if an EMP, a CME, a grid hack, whatever happens, and you're at a half a tank? Well, you're going to get half as far as you would on a full tank, right? So make frequent stops. Buy a cup of coffee, gas up. Go to the bathroom, gas up. It's always a good idea to keep that up towards the top. Now, the things that I'll talk about here, excuse me. Pardon me, I'll I won't do that many more times. If I have to do that, I'll pause the camera. Uh, like I said, I always figure when we take a trip, I think about how long would it take me to walk back. From the time that the kids were very young, I'd have them work their math on this and say, okay, kids, we are X number of miles from home. We can make X number of miles per day. How many days will it take us to walk back? And of course, as the kids got older and now they can hoof it just as well as I can, it doesn't take us near as long as when they were younger, right? Because you have to plan for your slowest member. When my daughter was 5, we weren't going to make it nearly as fast as now that she's 13 and she plays all the sports and she's just as good a shape as the rest of us. Excuse me while I take a sip of this. But that's my starting point. How many days would it take us to walk back? Now, that would be in ideal situations. And with the grid goes down, you're going to be dealing with less than ideal situations, right? For instance, we were up on the North Shore, north of Duluth. If we had had to walk back, I would not have walked through Minneapolis, right? So we're coming down I-35. I'm going to give Minneapolis and every other large city a wide berth, which adds to the days that you could be on the road. Think about this. If you are away from home, you might think that you want to walk the highway back, but what are you going to be running into on the highway? A lot of other desperate people and a lot of people who just, maybe out to the bad folks are going to be worse when everything's a problem, right? So keep that in mind. You want to be able to travel as quickly as possible, but as safely as possible, right? So your walk home is not necessarily going to be in a straight line. So you need to adjust for that and figure for that. So we try to pack as much food as we can to last the number of days we're going to be gone. Now, that was just about impossible when we went out to Seattle. When you're driving out to the Northwest, those distances are vast. And so I knew there was no way that we could carry enough food to last us. But realize this too. If you have to hoof it back, you're not going to be eating like you do when you're at home, right? You're not going to be eating near as much. Now, there will be those who say, well, when you're walking and when you're doing that, you're going to need more calories. Yeah, ideally, but most of us carry a little bit of extra calories on us, right? And you'd be surprised how long you can go, how far you can go, how much work you can do without eating a lot. And so you're not going to be having a banquet every meal. You're going to be eating, in snacks or once a day, twice a day, and not near the big meals that you're going to. And maybe I'll do one on, and I probably will when I get to the one I do on the bags. The bag system, because this goes into what I call the truck bag and the truck box, everything that we put in there. But just suffice it to say that we put in however much food we need to, high calorie food, peanut butter, canned meats, protein bars, candy bars, all sorts of things that I can pack into that box that if worst comes to worst, I can divvy it up between everybody who's in the group. We can all put a little bit in everybody's bag, and then we'll be in good shape. Okay, so pack as much food as you can, as much as you can carry, as much as you need. Okay, better to take more and not be able to carry it all than say, gee, I could have carried more. Wish we'd packed more. Right? Okay. Now realize also, if you're going to be making it back, you're going to be walking. You need some good footwear. Too many people go on vacation, especially, and they're wearing their vacation shoes, right? They're wearing their flip-flops and they're wearing their stylish stuff. And, well, you better have a good pair of shoes. The things that I always pay attention to, and I dress more roughly, I know, than a lot of people do. I always wear Duluth fire hose pants. They're tough. They got all the pockets in the world. I always wear good wool socks. I always wear good walking shoes. I'm pretty much always ready to walk home from wherever I am. But a lot of people aren't. So make sure that you keep with you good traveling clothes. And not just for the weather that you're leaving, but the weather you're going to go into. You know how many people, and you've probably seen this. Well, you go to an airport in Colorado or Florida or someplace like that, and you see everybody getting off the plane dressed for where they came from, right? Well, have clothes for where you're going to and through the areas you're going to be passing. Okay, so we might have gone to when we went over to Seattle. Seattle's a nice mild climate. We were in a nice mild climate, but I knew that if we had to hoof it home, we're coming across the Rockies. So I had stuff in there for that, right? You want to pack stuff also that's going to allow you to survive when you're out there. Now that means, excuse me, all the things it takes to provide for shelter. You know, sleeping, you want tarps, you want ground sheets, you want plenty of cordage, you know, whether you carry paracord or larger rope or bank line or whatever it is, you want to be able to construct shelter along the way. You want wet weather gear. Okay? It may be sunny where you're going, it may be sunny where you are, but you don't know where you're going to be coming through. You know, all of a sudden you're walking down the road, or you've made camp for the night and it starts raining. A wet day the next day is going to suck compared to if you had something with you that'll keep you dry, right? Excuse me. You need to be able to defend yourself. Now, a lot of places, most places now in the United States, allow concealed carry. And before you leave where you're going, you know, where you lived or where you're going, I always check with, I think I saw somebody, I did see this in a comment as I was scanning through. Somebody suggested you check with the USCCA, U.S. Concealed Carry Association, I think it is, for who, you know, what different laws in the different states for concealed carry. I think it's a great idea. What I do is I go to our Attorney General's website, the state of Kansas, where I live, and I check the reciprocity for everybody who recognizes Kansas concealed carry. And he has a complete list. Your state probably does too. Just go there and make sure that make sure you know the laws. Okay. Most places are going to recognize your concealed carry from your state. Some may not. You know, when I go through the corner of Oregon, because I checked with their state police up there. I called them on the phone and said, "Hey, we're going up through the Northwest. I'm going to be passing through a corner of your state. How do I need to have my firearms?" And he said, "Well, without an Oregon permit, because they recognize a lot of others. He said, you're going to have it locked in your trunk, ammo separate from your weapon, not in reach of the driver, everything like that." Irritating, yes. Maybe they'll catch up someday. I had to do the same when I went through Illinois. I've had some people tell me since then. I haven't checked it myself. So if you need to, you check it yourself. But they said, well, Illinois has changed. But the last time I went through Illinois to go down to Tennessee, I stopped at the Illinois state line going from Missouri to Illinois. Took my weapons off, took them all out of the front of the vehicle, stashed them in back, unloaded, stored ammo, all that kind of stuff. Drove the 75 miles or whatever I had to through part of in that case, Illinois, but then also up in Oregon. And then when I get into the next state, get them back out, put them back on, reload them, everything. So just make sure. Whether you do it through one of the organizations or whether you do it by checking with your attorney general's office or whoever handles it in your state, be a good idea to know that. You want to be able to defend yourself. The road is a dangerous place. If you break down on the side of the road, you are at the mercy of the next person who comes along. Now, 95% of the people out there are good folks. Maybe 10% will stop and help. 85% will go on by and say a prayer for you. But, the last few percentage of the people that you need to worry about, and you don't want to be at the mercy of them. So you want to be able to protect yourself. Now, I believe that the person who asked me the question lives in Washington, D.C. You can't carry weapons in Washington, D.C., from what I understand, and I think she said that. Well, carry something. You have to carry something. And I know I'm not recommending these. I'm recommending that you look into things like these burners, these things that shoot the gas pellets, pellet cartridges, or whatever it is, pepper balls, whatever. I don't know anything about them. I haven't shot them. I haven't known anybody who's been shot or shot anybody with them. If you can't carry a gun, I guess that would be, something anyway. But the world is full of things you can use as a weapon. I'll just put it that way. Make sure that you always have something on you that you can use as a weapon. And even, when you're flying, there's all sorts of things that you can take with you that you could use as a weapon, because, that limp that you've got that you need your cane for. I mean, you know what I mean, right? So, that what we're talking about here is the big one. What if everything fell apart? Now, of course, being involved in the preparedness business, I'm pretty much always set up like that, right? You may not be set up like that. You might just think about setting up like that for when you go on a trip. But think about keeping your vehicle always in the kind of condition that would enable you to go off at a moment's notice, because you'll always use that stuff. Even the stored food, it's not a bad idea to carry food in your car. What if you're stuck at work and a snowstorm comes? Okay, well, I'll go out to my car and I'll get my peanut butter and crackers, and I'm set for the night while I wait out the storm, or whatever. But it's a good idea to have those things with you. And not for yourself, but maybe you can help someone else. So anyway, that's just kind of my basics for safety on the road. I will say one thing. I'll throw in something here. If you've read my books, you'll notice that in the first chapter, when Jim, and that's the reversion, should I hold them up for those who don't know what I'm talking about? The Stone Mount series, the first book, my first book, the reversion. Jim Wyatt, a main character, gets stuck away from home when the grid goes down. And yes, they're available on Amazon or through me, and the links are down below. And he, instead of walking 30 miles home, he goes to a thrift shop and he talks the lady into letting him buy a ratty old bicycle to make it home. We rode bicycles up in Duluth, and it was a lot of fun. If you're caught away from home, I'll just throw this in here. If you're caught away from home and the big one happens, do your best to get a bicycle. You'll make a lot more time. I mean, if you can walk 20 miles a day, and some can't. Some can, some can't. You can easily make 50 a day on a bicycle, right? So jump on that one. And the Scouts, in another part of my books, they use bicycles going down into the city. I'm a big believer in bicycles. Everybody should have a bicycle. So now that I've done that, and I've laid this out a little bit, and I've shared just a few things that I think about when we're preparing to go on the road, I'll put those up, and now I will go over and I'll read all of the comments that the patrons left on the Patreon site. I'm sure that they got into a lot more detail than I did. So I would recommend those of you listening or watching on YouTube, if you're not with us on Patreon, you might want to come over there. You're going to get a lot more out of it. Like I say, it's $1 a month. The link is down below. Would love to have you, and you will appreciate being there. So, by the way, it's I've missed you all. I do want to apologize before I let you go for not having gotten back to so many people who have left comments. You know that I like to get back to people who leave comments, and I just haven't had it in me for the last few days to do that. So now I'm going to go back and check everybody, and I will look forward to reading all the comments, which I'm sure are going to be very, very informational. You all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.